Did you know that Stonehenge was periodically added to, changed, and rearranged for around 1500 years? Hello and welcome to World History Encyclopedia. My name is Kelly and today's video is all about the Neolithic site Stonehenge. This video was kindly sponsored by History Hit, a company that brings you the stories that shaped the world through their award-winning podcast network and online history channel. It's like Netflix, but for history. With over 500 documentaries, 1,000 plus podcast episodes, and 5,000 history-related travel articles, History Hit are adding new programs and podcasts each week. If this all sounds pretty great, then be sure to visit historyhit.com and use our code WORLDHISTORY to get 50% off your first 3 months. And as always, you can support us by joining our Patreon, which you can find the link for down below. Stonehenge is a site that dates back to the Neolithic period in circa 3000 BCE on the Salisbury Plain, Wiltshire in southern England. It wasn't a site built in the late Neolithic period, which then sat stagnant for 5,000 years. Oh no, the site was built, changed, and altered numerous times across approximately 1,500 years. The large circular site, consisting of numerous large and smaller stones, went through a number of changes and additions until circa 1500 BCE, after which no further construction has been identified. Today, it is an incredibly popular tourist destination in England and is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The present Stonehenge went through a whole bunch of construction phases before it turned into the site we would recognise today. The first phase of its construction dates to around 3000 BCE, and during this phase, what may have once been 56 timber posts were placed in a ring around the site, and the remaining holes are known as Aubrey holes. It is generally believed that timber posts were once placed in these holes, but recently it's been thought that perhaps once upright stones were placed in them instead. During its first 300 to 500 years, Stonehenge was actually used for cremation burials, with 64 cremations and perhaps around 150 individuals having been identified. This makes it the largest Neolithic cemetery in the British Isles. From the beginning of the site's history, there was also what is known as the heel stone, which is a huge boulder that wasn't shaped and that stands away from the main site, but is surrounded by a small circular ditch. During the second phase of the construction of Stonehenge, in around 2500 BCE, is where the stones came into it all. During this phase, there were two major changes to the site: the incorporation of the huge Sarsens stones and the smaller bluestones. The large Sarsens stones are generally accepted to have come from Marlborough Downs, about 19 miles or around 30 kilometres north of the site, and they are incredibly heavy. They are large sandstones that average about 20 tonnes, and they were shaped. When the Sarsen stones were first added to the site, the 30 outer Sarsens would have made an unbroken ring around the inner stones, and they were all topped with horizontal lintels. However, now many have fallen over, with only 6 of the outer Sarsen lintels remaining. The lintel is the horizontal stone placed atop 2 vertical Sarsens, and a mortise and tenon joint was used to lock the lintels in place. In a mortise and tenon joint, the protruding stick, the tongue, is cut to fit the mortise hole exactly, which made it a tricky joint since the measurements had to be perfect. And it's a technique very common in woodworking that was used mostly to join 2 pieces at a right angle. There was also an inner horseshoe created out of Sarsens, and these were freestanding triads of stones known as trilithons. Of course, there were also the 56 bluestones that were brought to the site. These bluestone pillars weren't just any stones that could be found lying around. No, they travelled 200 kilometres or around 124 miles from the Preseli Hills in Pembrokeshire, Wales. And they average a weight of around 2 tonnes, so it wouldn't have been an easy journey to have made. The bluestones were erected in a double arc between the outer Sarsen circle and the Sarsen trilithon horseshoe in the middle. A trilithon or trilith is a structure of two vertical stones with a third placed horizontally along the top, which is known as the lintel. In addition to the Sarsens and bluestones, 4 stones known as station stones were also erected during this phase of construction. The 4 station stones marked the corners of a perfect rectangle, with its centre point also being the centre point of the whole monument. We're still not 100% sure about the reason for the alignment of these 4 station stones, but they do mirror the solstice alignment of the other stones, something we will get to very soon. And they may have also marked lunar alignment. 200 to 300 years later, so between circa 2300 and 2200 BCE, during phases 3 and 4 of the site, the bluestones were rearranged until they formed an inner circle between the Sarsen circle and Sarsen trilithon horseshoe, and an oval in the middle of the site, around the altar stone, which is now a partially buried stone beneath 2 fallen stones. During this time, the avenue was also constructed, which is a walkway that links the henge to the River Avon. After this rearrangement, there was no more major changes made to the site, although during the Bronze Age, between 1750 and 1500 BCE, 4 of the Sarsens were carved into with hundreds of daggers and axes. Axes of the same shape as these carvings were found in the archaeological record and from burial mounds around Stonehenge. The purpose of Stonehenge is still quite a mystery, and because of this, many different theories have been suggested throughout the years, including a Druid temple, a calendar, a place for kings to be crowned, or a place for ancestor worship, just to name a few. Before the stones were erected, it was used as a place for cremation burial, but in phase 2 of the construction in circa 2500 BCE and the erection of the Sarsens and bluestones, they were placed with great precision to line up with the sun's movements on midwinter and midsummer. You may recall the heel stone that was placed on its own on the outskirts of the site during the earliest phase of the site. But in fact, there is a pit next to the heel stone that suggests there may have been another large boulder of similar size next to it that would have framed the midsummer sunrise. On midwinter's day towards the southwest, the sun would have set between the 2 upright Sarsens in the largest trilithon of the inner horseshoe, although half of this structure has since fallen over and so the effect has been lost. The stones that would have framed the sun's movements during the solstices were the most carefully worked, and the entire site was carefully thought out in relation to the solstices. With all this in mind, it is generally agreed that Stonehenge was a temple aligned with the sun's movements, but why and what happened at the site during these times of year is a mystery. Why do you think Stonehenge was built? Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on our new videos every Tuesday and Friday. This video was brought to you by World History Encyclopedia. For more great articles and interactive content, head to our website via the link below. If you like my shirt, you can find this design and a bunch more in our shop at worldhistory.store, or you can find the link for it under the merch tab down below. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon with another video.